My name's Daniel Price, though almost everyone calls me Danny. I'm 26 years old, born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. If you'd asked me 2 weeks ago what the scariest thing I'd ever experienced was, I probably would have said the time I spun out on the interstate during a snowstorm. Or maybe that night when the smoke alarm wouldn't stop beeping at 3 a.m. and I convinced myself there was some kind of electrical fire in the walls. What happened last Thursday makes all of that look like children's bedtime stories. To be honest, I almost didn't write this. There's a part of me that wants to keep my mouth shut, pretend it never happened, and hope whatever this thing is just forgets about me. But there's another part, the part that remembers the sound of my own name whispered from the dark corner of my living room. That can't stop thinking, what if it isn't just me? What if it's looking for others? That's why I'm here. I work nights at a shipping warehouse, and I usually get home around 11:30. My routine is clockwork: heat up some leftovers, scroll Reddit, or watch a dumb horror flick, and pass out on the couch. I'm not exactly a party animal. On Thursday, everything was normal. I dropped my keys in the dish by the door, nuked some cold pizza, and had just settled in with Netflix when I heard the knock. 3 knocks. Slow, steady. That's not unusual in itself. But here's the thing: nobody comes to my apartment. My neighbors are polite but distant, and my only friend in the building, Mark, was out of town visiting his parents. So when I heard those knocks, my first reaction was confusion. I got up, set my pizza on the counter, and went to the door. "Who is it?" I called, my voice a little sharper than I intended. Silence. Something about that silence made me uneasy. You expect at least a muffled response. Sorry, wrong door, or it's maintenance. Instead, the air just hung there, heavy and still. I pressed my eye to the peephole. There was a man standing in the hallway. His hoodie was pulled up, shadowing his face, but the overhead light made his skin look too pale. His head was tilted, just slightly, as if he was listening for something on the other side of the door. I should have turned away right then. Should have gone back to my couch, cranked up the TV, and ignored it. Instead, like an idiot, I said, "You've got the wrong apartment." That's when he lifted his hand and tapped the peephole. Tap. Tap. Something about those taps. It wasn't playful. It wasn't threatening exactly, but it was deliberate. Like he was saying, "I know you're there." I stepped back from the door. I should explain, I'm not a paranoid guy. I don't own a gun. I don't have pepper spray. Hell, I barely even locked the deadbolt half the time. But there was something about this man that set every nerve in my body screaming. Then he spoke. "Danny, let me in." My blood ran cold. I had never seen this man before in my life. "How do you know my name?" I demanded, my voice cracking. He chuckled. Not a warm chuckle. Not even a mean one. It was dry, hollow, like someone forcing air through a throat that hadn't laughed in a long time. "I've always known your name." I backed up toward the kitchen. My phone was on the counter. My hands were trembling as I grabbed it and dialed 911. The pounding started before the call connected. Not knocking anymore, slamming. The whole door shook in its frame. "Light me on, Denwy." The operator picked up. 911. "What's your emergency?" "There's someone at my door," I hissed, my voice barely above a whisper. "He knows my name? He?" I stopped, because when I glanced back toward the door, the peephole was black. Something was pressed against it, blocking out the hallway. And then, God help me, I heard the whisper, not from the hall, not from outside, from inside my apartment. "Danny, The phone slipped from my hands. The voice came again from the dark corner by my TV. The same tone, the same cadence as the man at the door. "Danny." I stumbled back, heart hammering. My apartment isn't big. 1 bedroom, tiny living space. But at that moment it felt like a maze. Every shadow stretched too far. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like footsteps. I remember clutching the counter, trying to stay upright. And then, this is the part I can't explain. The door opened. I never touched the lock. I never turned the knob. But I heard the unmistakable creak of the hinges, and when I looked up, the door was swinging inward. The hallway beyond was empty, but the whisper in my apartment grew louder. "Danny." Then everything went black. When I woke up, it was morning. Sunlight poured through the blinds, harsh and too bright. My pizza was still sitting on the counter, congealed and cold. My phone showed a call log with 9:11, lasting 14 minutes. I don't remember talking for more than 30 seconds. And the door. It was shut. The chain lock was in place. As if nothing had happened. But something did happen. I can't convince myself it was a dream. Not when I keep hearing faint tapping at night. Not on the door anymore, but inside the walls. And not when I found the writing. That's the part I haven't told anyone yet. When I came home from work last night, there was something scrawled on the inside of my bathroom mirror. Letters traced through condensation, though I hadn't showered. 4 words. "I'm already inside, Danny." When I left off, I told you about the knocking. The man who somehow knew my name, and the whisper I heard from inside my apartment. I also told you about the words I found, traced into the condensation on my bathroom mirror. "I'm already inside, Danny." That was Friday morning. Since then, I've been running on caffeine, paranoia, and pure survival instinct. Writing this down is the only thing that keeps me tethered to the idea that I'm not losing my mind. Because if I am losing it, if this is all in my head, then I don't know how to explain what happened the past 2 nights. I called out of work Friday. My manager didn't like it. But I couldn't spend 8 hours lifting boxes and pretending I wasn't terrified of going home. I spent most of the day pacing around my apartment, checking the locks, opening and closing every cabinet like maybe something had crawled inside them. Every so often, I'd hear it. Tap, tap, always faint, always somewhere I couldn't pinpoint. Sometimes the wall by the couch, sometimes the bathroom pipes. Once, horrifyingly, I swear it came from inside my closet. By Friday night, I was losing my grip. I decided to do something practical, check the building's security cameras. My landlord had bragged about the new system. Last year, even though it was just a couple of grainy cameras in the lobby and hallways. Still, I figured if someone had been standing outside my apartment pounding on the door, the cameras would have picked it up. So I walked downstairs to the tiny management office. Mrs. Albright, the landlady, was sitting behind her desk, chain smoking like she always did. She rasped, squinting at me through the smoke. "Something wrong?" "Yeah, someone came to my apartment Thursday night. Weird guy. Knew my name. Scared the hell out of me. I was wondering if I could take a look at the footage." She frowned. "Did you call the cops?" "Yeah, I did. But by the time they would have shown up, he was gone." That part was a lie. I hadn't waited for police at all, too freaked out by the whisper in my living room. But she didn't need to know that. She sighed, stubbed out her cigarette, and pulled up the feed on her old desktop. "Which camera?" "4th floor, outside 4B. Around midnight." She clicked around until grainy black and white footage filled the screen. My hallway timestamp blinking. We watched. At exactly midnight, there I was, me, in my sweatpants, walking up to my own door, fumbling for my keys. I remembered that part. Then nothing. For over an hour, the hallway stayed empty. Nobody knocked. Nobody in a hoodie. Nobody at all. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. "See," she said. Probably just a dream. But I remembered the pounding, the voice, the blackened peephole, the whisper inside. That wasn't a dream. "Could you rewind a little more?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Like back to 11:30. She gave me a skeptical look but rewound. There I was again, entering the building. The lobby doors swung shut. The hallway was empty. But as I watched closely, I saw something strange. The camera glitched. Just for a second, a horizontal line of static tore across the screen, and in that flicker, I thought I saw a shape. Not a man. Not anything human, exactly. Just a blur, standing in the hall, facing my door. Then it was gone. I swallowed hard. "See that?" I asked, pointing. Mrs. Albright squinted. "That's just the feed acting up. Cheap system. Doesn't mean anything." But it meant something to me. That night, I couldn't bring myself to sleep in my apartment. I went to my buddy Mark's place across town. He was still at his parents', so I had the couch to myself. I locked every door, drew the blinds, and tried to tell myself I was safe. But at 3:17 a.m., I woke to the sound of someone whispering my name. I shot upright. The living room was empty. My heart hammered against my ribs, and then I realized something. The whisper hadn't come from inside the apartment. It had come from my phone. I picked it up from the coffee table. The screen was dark. No notifications. But as soon as I touched it, the whisper came again, faint but clear through the speaker. "Danny." I dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor, the sound far too loud in the silent apartment. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Saturday morning, I did what any sane person would do. I went to the police. I told them about the man at my door, about how he knew my name, about the writing on my mirror. I left out the part about the whisper coming from my phone. I didn't want to get thrown in the psych ward. But I begged them to send someone to check my apartment. The officer, a guy named Reynolds, humored me. We drove back to my place. He walked through every room, checked the closets, even crawled into the attic crawlspace. "Nothing. Locks are intact," he said. "No sign of forced entry. My guess, some neighbor messing with you. Or maybe you had a bad dream." Happens. I wanted to scream at him. Instead, I just nodded. He gave me his card. "Call if it happens again." As soon as he left, I noticed something new. My bathroom mirror had another message. This time, the words were longer, scratched faintly into the glass itself, as if by a fingernail. "You can't hide in other houses, Danny. I'll always find you." My stomach turned. It had known where I was last night. At Mark's place. I tried to hold it together through Saturday, but by nightfall, I was shaking. Every sound in the apartment made me jump. Every shadow seemed to stretch toward me. I turned on all the lights, even in the bathroom, just to keep the dark at bay. Around 1 a.m., exhaustion finally pulled me under. I must have dozed off on the couch, because I woke to silence and darkness. The lamps I'd left on were all off. My TV was off. My phone screen was black. The power had gone out. That's when I heard the tapping. Not on the walls this time. Not in the closet. On the couch. Right beside my head. I froze, holding my breath. My skin prickled as something brushed against my ear. Soft, cold, and deliberate. "Danny," it whispered. I bolted upright, fumbling in the dark. my hands smacking against cushions and empty air. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and whipped it around the room. Nothing. But when the beam passed over the mirror above my TV, I saw words scrawled across it in tall, jagged letters, STOPRUNING. I don't remember much after that. I think I fainted. When I came to, it was morning again. The lights worked. The words on the mirror were gone, but the fear stayed. And now I'm sitting here, writing this, realizing something I've been trying not to admit. It doesn't matter if I move apartments. It doesn't matter if I leave the city, the state, the country. This thing isn't outside trying to get in. It's already inside. I didn't go into work on Sunday or Monday. I told my boss I was sick, but the truth is, I couldn't bring myself to leave my apartment. Every time I thought about stepping out into the daylight, I pictured coming back and finding something waiting inside. Or worse, finding nothing at all, but knowing it had followed me anyway. I've been eating canned soup and stale cereal, barely sleeping, just pacing the apartment like a prisoner. I know it sounds insane, but here's the thing, I'm not the only one anymore. Other people have seen it. Sunday afternoon, there was a knock on my door. My heart nearly shot out of my chest. I froze, staring at the door, remembering the last time I'd heard knocking. But this time, a voice followed. "Danny, it's Mrs. Patel." Mrs. Patel lives across the hall. Sweet old lady, always bakes too many cookies at Christmas. I hesitated, then opened the door just a crack, chain still on. She was standing there in her floral housecoat, clutching a grocery bag. "Danny," she said, peering at me through her thick glasses. "Is everything all right? You look pale." "I'm fine," I lied. "Just tired." She frowned. "I thought you had company." My skin prickled. "What do you mean?" "I heard voices from your apartment last night," she said. "Deep voices. I like you. And I saw someone through your window. Tall man, wearing a hood. He was just standing there, staring out." I slammed the door shut before I even thought about it. But she was right. I live alone. Nobody was here last night. And I hadn't opened my blinds in days. So how the hell did she see someone in my window? That night, I tried something new. If I couldn't trust my memory, maybe I could trust technology. I downloaded a sound recorder app on my phone and set it on the coffee table before collapsing onto the couch. I left it running all night. Monday morning, I played it back. For the first 20 minutes, it was just me tossing and turning, the occasional creak of the couch. Then, around 12:43 a.m., I heard it, a whisper. Not once, not twice, but over and over. "Danny, Danny, Danny." Sometimes close to the microphone, sometimes farther away, like it was circling the room. At 1:12 a.m., the whispering stopped. For about 30 seconds, there was silence. Then a sound so loud I almost dropped the phone, a voice, deep and guttural, growling directly into the mic. "Stupid." The recording ended abruptly after that. No static, no battery dying. Just cut off, like something didn't want me to hear more. I told myself it had to be a glitch, some interference. But then I noticed something on the recording screen that made my blood run cold. The app logs sound levels in little bars. At 1:12 a.m., when the deep voice spoke, the bar spiked so high it maxed out. Louder than any sound I could possibly make in this apartment. And right before it cut off, I heard another sound. Barely audible, buried under the growl. The click of my door unlocking. By Monday night, I was spiraling. I tried to distract myself by scrolling through Reddit, convincing myself maybe I'd find someone else with a similar story. But as I scrolled, my laptop screen flickered. Lines of static raced across it. Then, just for a second, my reflection in the darkened screen changed. It wasn't me. Same hoodie as the man from the hallway. Pale, stretched face. Head tilted. And it was smiling. I slammed the laptop shut. Around 2 a.m., my phone rang. The screen said, "Unknown caller." Against my better judgment, I answered. At first, nothing. Just static. Then, "Danny." I hung up, heart pounding. The phone rang again immediately. This time, I didn't answer. But a voicemail appeared. I forced myself to play it, hands shaking. At first, static again. Then that same guttural voice. "I'm INSID." Then silence. Except not silence, because underneath the static I could hear my own voice, breathing, as if the phone had been recording me in real time. I didn't sleep at all after that. When the sun rose, I thought maybe daylight would make me feel safer. It didn't, because when I went to make coffee, I found another message, this time carved directly into the wood of my kitchen table.
OPM TTO.
Or, I didn't carve it. Nobody else has keys. But it was there. Deep grooves, as if cut with something sharp. Tuesday morning, I finally broke down and called Mark. I hadn't told him much before, just that I'd had a break and scare. But now I spilled everything. The man at the door, the whispers, the recordings, the messages. "Jesus, Danny," he said, "you sound like you're about to lose it." "I am losing it." I snapped. "But it's real, Mark. I've got proof." "I'll send you the recording," he sighed.
Okay.
"Send it. And, look, maybe you should come stay with me for a while, just to clear your head." I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But then I remembered the message on my bathroom mirror. "You can't hide in other houses, Danny. I'll always find you." If it followed me once, it could follow me again. Still, I promised I'd think about it, but I didn't send him the recording, because when I opened the file again, it was gone. Not deleted, not corrupted, just gone. In its place was a new file, same timestamp, same length. I pressed play with trembling fingers. It wasn't the recording I'd made. It was me, sleeping on the couch, and someone standing over me, breathing. That brings me to now. Tuesday night. I'm writing this in the dark, because the lights keep flickering anyway. My phone keeps buzzing with calls from unknown, and I'm too afraid to answer. A few minutes ago, I heard Mrs. Patel again. She knocked on my door, calling my name, but when I checked the peephole, she wasn't there. Just the man in the hoodie, head tilted, smiling. And when I backed away, I heard her voice again, muffled through the door. "Danny, open the door. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know if my neighbors are alive, if my own voice is even mine, if my apartment is just a box this thing crawled inside. All I know is it wants me to open the door. And I don't think it means the one in my hallway. I think it means something deeper. Some door inside me, and I'm terrified that sooner or later I will." By the time Wednesday came around, I stopped pretending I was okay. I looked like hell, sunken eyes, shaky hands, a stench of sweat and fear I couldn't scrub off. I hadn't slept more than an hour in days. Food barely stayed down. I was surviving on adrenaline and coffee, pacing my apartment like a caged animal, and the thing was getting bolder. It started before dawn. I was sitting at my table, staring at the gouged-in words. "OPH door," when I heard it. Not the usual tapping, not the whisper of my name. Footsteps. Slow, dragging footsteps circling the apartment. Not in the hallway, no. Inside the walls. I pressed my ear against the plaster. For a moment's silence. Then the sound came again, directly behind the thin sheetrock. Heel-toe. Heel-toe. Like something pacing, waiting for me to notice. I backed away and shut myself in the bathroom, heart jackhammering, and that's when I saw the mirror. A new message, written across it in jagged strokes, not traced through condensation this time. This was etched deep and permanent. Almost-rady. I couldn't take it anymore. I called Officer Reynolds, the cop who'd checked my place before. My voice cracked as I begged him to come back. "Mr. Price," he said with that weary cop tone, "we didn't find any forced entry last time. I think what you need is a good night's rest. Maybe even, don't you dare say hospital." I snapped. "I have proof." He sighed. "What kind of proof?" I didn't want to tell him about the recordings. They were gone now, replaced by whatever the hell that thing wanted me to hear. So instead, I blurted the only thing I had left. My neighbor saw him. Mrs. Patel. She saw the man in my apartment. There was a pause. "Mrs. Patel?" Reynolds asked.
Yes!
Across the hall, 4C. "Ask her. She'll tell you." Another pause. Longer this time. "Mr. Price?" he said, carefully. "Apartment 4C has been vacant for over a year. Mrs. Patel passed away last spring." The phone nearly slipped from my hands. No, I talked to her. She knocked on my door. "I think you should come down to the station," Reynolds said gently. "We can get you some help." I hung up before he could finish. That evening, I decided to prove to myself I wasn't insane. I went across the hall. Apartment 4C's door was dusty, paint peeling, handle cold to the touch. I knocked anyway. No answer. I twisted the knob. It wasn't even locked. The door creaked open, revealing darkness and the faint smell of mildew. The place was empty. No furniture, no curtains, just bare floors and cracked walls. But in the middle of the living room was a single chair, and sitting on the chair, facing the door, was a grocery bag, the same kind Mrs. Patel had been holding when I saw her. Inside were stale, moldy cookies. I slammed the door shut and ran back to my apartment, my stomach churning. That night was the worst yet. At 200 a.m., I woke to find my couch moved. Not by much, just a few inches from where it had been. At 20:45, the kitchen chairs were stacked on top of the table, all facing the bathroom. At 30:10, my TV turned itself on, playing nothing but static, the volume maxed. I pulled the plug. The screen went black. And in that black reflection, I saw the man in the hoodie, standing behind me. I spun around. Nothing. But when I looked back at the TV, the reflection was still there, smiling. At dawn, I finally snapped. I couldn't stay here another second. I packed a duffel bag with clothes, my phone, my wallet, and bolted. The hallway felt wrong. Too quiet. The buzzing light overhead flickered, shadows twitching along the walls. I didn't wait for the elevator. I sprinted down 4 flights of stairs and burst into the lobby. But the lobby wasn't empty. A woman was standing there. Not Mrs. Patel, not anyone I recognized. Tall, gaunt, with stringy black hair. She wore the same hoodie as the man outside my door. "Danny," she whispered, her head tilting in that unnatural way. I stumbled backward, my duffel bag dropping to the floor. Her mouth stretched too wide, lips tearing at the corners, smile splitting her face like rotten fabric. Then she blinked, and she was gone. The lobby was empty. I didn't stop running until I was halfway across town. I collapsed on a park bench, gasping for air, sweat dripping down my back. Morning commuters streamed past, oblivious to the nightmare tearing me apart. For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of relief. I was out, away, and then my phone buzzed. One new voicemail. With trembling hands, I pressed play. Static. Then my own voice, strained and whispering, "Stop running, Danny. You'll only make it worse." I dropped the phone, bile rising in my throat. because I hadn't spoken those words. And yet it was my voice. I didn't go back to my apartment. I couldn't. Instead, I called Mark. This time I begged him outright. Please, man, I can't be alone anymore. Can I crash at your place? Just for a night. He hesitated, but eventually agreed. Fine. But you better explain what the hell's going on. I took a bus to his apartment. Every time the bus slowed at a stoplight, I swore I saw someone outside. Hoodie pulled up, pale face turned toward me. But when I blinked, they were gone. By the time I reached Mark's, I was a wreck. He opened the door, gave me one look, and muttered, "Jesus, you look like death." I collapsed on his couch, too drained to answer. For a few hours, things seemed normal. We ordered pizza. He let me rant, even though I could see in his eyes he thought I'd lost it. But at least I wasn't alone. Until midnight, the power cut out. Mark cursed, fumbling for a flashlight, probably a blown fuse. But I knew better, because in the dark I heard it, that whisper, not just once, a chorus. "Danny! Danny! Danny!" Voices all around us, pressing against the walls, seeping through the cracks, filling the room. Mark's flashlight flicked on, beam shaking. His face was pale. What the fuck was that? Before I could answer, the mirror on the wall cracked. Words formed across the shattered glass, jagged and glowing faintly in the dark. THDOS, open ING. We didn't sleep. Couldn't. When morning came, Mark looked at me with wide, terrified eyes. "Okay," he said. "I believe you. But what the hell does it want?" I shook my head. "I don't know. I think it wants me to let it in. Not here. Not the apartment door. Something else. Some other door. And if you don't?" He asked. I didn't answer, because deep down, I already knew. If I didn't open it, it would open it for me. That was last night. Today, I'm sitting in Mark's apartment, writing this while he paces nervously. We tried to leave earlier, but every time we touched the doorknob, the whisper started again. It's trapping us. And I just checked the bathroom. The mirror in his apartment has a new message. TOIGHTL. When I first started writing all this down, I thought it was just a way to cope. A diary for the damned. Maybe if I got the words out, the thing that's been haunting me would loosen its grip. But after what happened last night, I know the truth. This was never about coping. It was about confession. And maybe it was about warning the rest of you before it's too late. Mark and I didn't leave his apartment after I saw the message on his mirror. Tone IGHT. We didn't even try. The whispering had started as soon as the sun went down, circling the apartment like wolves around a campfire. Sometimes it was one voice, sometimes dozens, all murmuring my name. Danny, Danny. Every time Mark tried to speak above a whisper, they grew louder, drowning him out until we both just sat in silence, waiting. By midnight, the walls themselves seemed alive. The plaster bulged, as if something was pushing from the other side, desperate to get in. Cracks spread across the ceiling like veins, and then the footsteps began, heavy, deliberate, pacing the hallway outside. Back and forth, back and forth, every step synchronized with the pounding of my heart. Mark grabbed a kitchen knife. His hands were shaking so bad, I thought he'd cut himself. "We can't just sit here, man. We've got to do something." "What do you want me to do?" I snapped, my voice raw. This isn't something we can fight. It's not a burglar. It's not even fucking human." He didn't argue. He knew I was right. But then the knocking started. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. The same knocks I'd heard that first night at my own door. This time, though, it wasn't at the front door. It was at the bathroom. Mark's flashlight beam shook as we both turned toward it. The bathroom door rattled on its hinges, the wood straining under invisible fists. "Danny," the chorus whispered. "Danny, let us in," Mark shouted, his voice breaking. "Get the fuck out!" The knocking stopped. Silence. Then, from the bathroom, a new sound, the squeal of hinges. The door was opening, on its own. Mark lunged forward, slammed the door shut, and braced his weight against it. "Don't just stand there!" he screamed. I stumbled over, pressing my shoulder against the wood. For a moment, it felt like we were holding back a hurricane. Something massive and furious pressed from the other side, the door bowing inward. Then, just as suddenly, the pressure stopped. Mark gasped, sweat dripping down his face. "What the hell is it?" I didn't answer, because deep down, I already knew. It wasn't trying to get into the bathroom. It was trying to get out. We backed away, knives useless in our hands, staring at that silent door. The air grew colder, every breath hanging in pale fog. My phone buzzed on the table, the screen lighting up with a new voicemail notification. Without thinking, I played it on speaker. Static. Then my own voice. "It's not the apartment door, Danny. You know which one it is." Mark looked at me, horrified. "What the fuck does that mean?" I swallowed hard. My throat felt raw, every word like glass. "It means the door isn't out there," I whispered. "It's in me." The realization hit like a freight train. Every whisper, every reflection, every message. It had never been about breaking into my home. It was about breaking into me. The door was something inside my head, my soul, whatever you want to call it. And bit by bit, this thing had been prying it open. "Danny," the chorus whispered again. "Danny, let us in." Mark backed away from me, knife trembling in his grip. "Don't let it, man. Don't fucking let it." But I could feel it. A pressure in my chest, like something clawing from the inside. My vision blurred, black shapes crawling at the edges. My own reflection in the darkened TV flickered. Me, but not me. Hood pulled up, head tilted. That awful smile. I fell to my knees, clutching my head. The voices swelled, louder and louder, filling the apartment until it felt like my skull would split. "Teach? Door." Mark shouted something. I don't even remember what. He tried to pull me up, tried to drag me away from myself, I guess. And then everything went silent. The voices cut off mid-word. The pressure vanished. For the first time in days, my head was clear. I opened my eyes, and the apartment was empty. No cracks in the ceiling, no whispering walls, no looming shadows. Just me and Mark, standing there in stunned silence. He let out a shaky laugh. "Jesus Christ. Is it gone?" I wanted to believe him. I wanted to say yes. But then my phone buzzed again. One new voicemail. Mark shook his head. Don't fucking listen to it." But I had to. I put it on speaker. This time, no static, no distorted growl, just my voice. Calm, clear. "Thanks for opening the door, Danny." I don't remember much after that. I think I blacked out. When I came to, it was morning. The apartment was spotless. No cracks, no writing, no overturned furniture. Mark was gone. His knife was still on the floor, but no sign of him. I called his name until my throat bled. Nothing. He didn't come back. I checked his building's security cameras later that day. Around 3 a.m., the feed glitched. Horizontal lines of static tearing across the screen. And for a split second, you can see it. Me, not the real me, the other one. Hoodie up, head tilted, smiling, walking out of Mark's apartment. And Mark walking behind me, glassy-eyed, like a puppet on strings. That was 3 days ago. Nobody's seen Mark since. His phone goes straight to voicemail. The police say he probably took off, but I know better. Because last night, I got another voicemail. This time, it wasn't just my voice, it was Mark's. He sounded calm, happy even. We're waiting, Danny. There's still more doors to open. I don't know how long I have left. The door inside me is wide open now. I can feel them, moving in and out, whispering in my blood. Sometimes when I look in the mirror, it's not even me staring back anymore. I'm writing this here, because maybe once I'm gone, someone else will find it. Maybe you'll understand what to do before it's too late. If you ever hear knocking in the middle of the night, don't answer it. If you ever hear your name whispered from inside your own home, don't listen. And if you ever feel something clawing inside you, begging to be let in, don't open the door. Because once you do, it's not just you they'll take. It's everyone around you.